Welcome to Thorin's YouTube channel. It's going to be a wild ride. GG.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Counterpoints with me, Thorin, something or other, you know me, Moses, coach of Team Liquid, so basically his fault they haven't won any tournaments in the last few months, you know. I mean, actually they were placing second before they got him, so all I'm going to say is, like, you know, proof's in the pudding, right? So, how you doing, Moses?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Definitely not upset, definitely not stressed out.
Why would you be?
No issues here.
On a more serious note, by the way, is there actually, like, pressure already in your job? Like, do you actually, like, is that actually a real thing, like fans think there is, where every time you lose, that, you know, you have to worry about things? Is that a real thing?
I mean, I don't think there's any pressure that I don't put on myself. I mean, I haven't gotten any pressure from like management saying I'm doing a bad job, saying you need to start winning. I think Liquid fans have been pretty gracious and understanding of not only me coming in, but also Grim coming in. So I mean, the only real pressure that I have on the moment is just on myself to kind of turn the ship around, you know, sooner rather than later type thing. So yeah, there's pressure, but it's nothing crazy. I haven't got like the full social media treatment yet, like the other players probably have already at this point.
Okay, all right, he'll come then. So look forward to that.
Yeah, we still have more time. Yeah,
that's coming down the pipeline.
I'll keep you updated.
So our two guests for this episode, in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got JT, former in-game leader of Cloud9 and ATK. No one knows yet technically where you guys are headed, but like basically, actually, I want to ask about that quickly. So obviously, the original story was like all of you were just transitioning, and Floppy wasn't going to go to Cloud9 because he had the initial offer, but then he said no, and then he was going with you guys. Like, is the plan still that the rest of the team's supposed to stay together? Because obviously, people saw this news with OC. Like, is he going? Is he still? What can you tell us at the moment, JT?
Yeah, that's still the plan. Like, we want to stick together. Originally, when Floppy and OC got offered by Cloud9, I think all of us told them that they should take it. Like, we think it's a great opportunity. Not entirely sure why they didn't. Didn't think they wanted to move to Europe because they've been in the US their whole lives and they're still young and all that. But yeah, I think the four of us still want to stick together, or the five of us with the TC. And yeah, we're still just looking for an org, waiting for someone to buy us, and yeah, nothing to do, just sitting on the bench really.
Okay, and then our other guest here is Xeppaa from Team Chaos. So basically one of those people where, I can't lie, I've sort of stacked the deck for this episode because the topic's going to be about, like, is NACS dying? So it's like, you know me, Moses, I want to have like a nice, fair, neutral discussion. So I thought I'd invite a guy on who wouldn't even have a job right now if like half of these people hadn't fucking left. So I'm feeling like he's probably loving it. Like, Valorant is the best thing that ever happened to his career.
Oh, yeah, probably. It's the best thing that happened to a lot of people's career, actually. There's a lot of people who have revitalized shit, but certainly some of these pros, some of the guys in NA are loving the extra space that's been made.
What do you think, Xeppaa?
I agree. I mean, you've seen a lot of players have moved on. Like, there's a couple advanced players coming from NA, going to Valorant, signing pro teams, people who have never made MDL.
Yeah,
it's great for them.
Because actually, that's one thing on a serious note, like, that your career actually is a good example. I'd say the same with JT, of the fact that, like, I think, like, listen, if we're going to make that a whole topic, like, is NACS dying? Like, well, it's going to be a short episode. The answer is no, obviously. Like, there's still loads of players here, all the teams, you guys are still competing. But obviously, to treat it like with more nuance, really what people mean is stuff like, everyone's afraid, basically, that if some players leave, at the moment, it's not many top players like Nitro, Daps, Som, there's only a handful. But if some of them leave, people worry, is there going to be anyone else to step in? Like, is it just going to be a bad player gets promoted? But I would actually say, like, the ATK team entirely, you guys came up, basically battled your way past that. Xeppaa, yourself, you basically just got inserted in this online era and have been doing great so far. So, like, it's not as simple as yes or no, but, like, let's get into some of this stuff. So, like, JT, you came from the world where, like, I'm not that familiar, basically, aside from the Bravado team. Like, you guys were basically, like, did you actually play in Advanced? Or MDL or whatever? Or was it just like you just came straight to invite? How did that work?
So when the first 3 months when we came here, they invited us to ESCA main, so we had to play for like 2 months. I don't think it was pretty easy. We didn't lose any games in that. I think there's some like weird ESCA rules where they can't like invite teams straight to MDL and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, we were invited to main. We had to qualify for MDL, and then we played MDL for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 seasons, and we won we just didn't win any of the promotion seasons. We won like the practice seasons because you know, MDL has like extra seasons, so they have these seasons that don't mean anything. So like we kind of
Yeah,
Sorry,
believe it or
that's actually one of the biggest problems in the NA scene, more so than even like the Valorant issue, is the structure of it is just so weird, like having seasons of MDL that just don't mean anything to promotion. And that's also goes back to, I mean, I think that was actually even also a relic of or like what happened. That was like one of the results of when they found like the loophole to get Virtus Pro to stick
Yes.
into the pro
Yes.
season as well.
That was one of the
So
things, yeah.
it's just really shitty like long-term planning and really shitty like seasonal organization where there's 3 MDL seasons a year and only 2 Pro League seasons a year. So that third one is just like a waste of time.
Well, could be worse. Now the entire Counter-Strike scene is just a bunch of online games that don't mean anything. So, oh, sorry, is this thing still on? Right? Yeah, no, I love fucking Counter-Strike and that. Yeah, Flashpoint's coming up soon. No, whatever. Yeah, keep going, JT. What were you saying?
We won like a bunch of like practice seasons and all that, but yeah, like Moses said, like I can actually get why a lot of like the NA players like would leave or like don't continue playing it, because there's a lot of like it's really hard to like break into like the top part of NA, because there's only like 3 teams that can actually play in international tournaments and all that. There's not a lot of spots for international tournaments, and then if they can go to Valorant, and then NA is one of the biggest scenes in Valorant.
Sure.
It's just NA in Europe really, and then like say like someone like Tens, like he's rated as like one of the best Valorant players in the world now, and he didn't really do much in CS. The same
Sure.
thing with Wardell.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there's just more opportunities in Valorant for a lot of players, but I don't think it's going to last, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think NACS is dying. Like if you look at the rankings right now and you look at the rankings 3 years ago, it looks very similar. There's the same number of teams are playing. There's actually probably more. There's more Brazilian teams here that are actually doing well.
Sure.
There's more. Now that these low-end MDL teams can play these top pro teams, they're actually beating them, sometimes taking maps of them, winning series against them. And that didn't happen 3 years ago. Like if Evil Geniuses or I don't know, Liquid played New England Whalers 3 years ago, that they would probably just wipe them out. So I don't see how NACS is dying, in my opinion, if you just look at it that way, just in terms of rankings, in terms of matchups.
No,
Especially when that comes back to, yeah.
Go on.
That's about it. I was just say like, I mean, on this phase right now, like everything's online. Obviously, like there's not that many teams or like not that many top teams. But like when LANs come back, I feel like the scene was never like dead or dying. We just gotta wait until the pandemic goes away. That's it.
Yeah, I think especially over here, there's like a big feeling where it feels like a lot of the players and teams are just holding their breaths for LANs to come back and like the scene to kind of get back to normal. I don't know, this feels to me like it's not like a dying a scene, it's like a spring cleaning. Like I don't look at, there's not very many players that left to Valorant that I look at and said they were like indispensable to the scene, or they were like these guys had like a great chance of going pro, or these guys had like Tens is probably a big loss, but even him, he was only like, we only really even saw his potential for a very short time. I think he was in C9 for what, like 2 or 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Dapper was like, I thought that one was kind of a big hit, but because I mean he showed some great potential at the original Flashpoint. Nitro obviously hurt. Steel's probably the biggest loss we had for his ability to develop the amateur scene,
and that has an obvious secondary reason that he didn't just leave because he loves Valorant. Let's be real,
right?
Like, you know, he'd probably still be playing now if he's unbanned. Yeah.
But I think the biggest problem and I think most of this, the people who say that the scene is dying are people who are entirely, I think, ignorant of the Counter-Strike scene and the North American scene as a whole, just because there's some high-profile things that have people who have left, and everything just it's all about like the hype of the headline, right? 100 Thieves dropping out, Shroud saying things on his stream about Counter-Strike dying, Nitro leaving, like these big headline-grabbing things, like the headlines of, like, I don't know why we needed to have like articles about, like I love the guy, but like Hiko did not need an article about him retiring from Counter-Strike.
Yes.
He's been gone for years. Scream did not need an article about him retiring from Counter-Strike to go to Valorant. He's been gone for years. And you see all these like articles pop up that are like CS:GO pros leave to go to Valorant, and it is names like Tens and Dapper, which, like I said, it sucks if in the scene because they have a lot of potential. But these guys, I mean, you're really stretching the word pro, if they've been in Cloud9 for 2 to 3 months before going to Valorant. So I think a lot of that opinion is just built around hype and is built around headlines and is built around people who don't really actually know what they're talking about, or just want people to buy into the hype in the headline.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the other topic about NACS dying just with all these, not all these, but there's like the 5 NA teams that are going to Europe now for bootcamp.
That's another
And
angle,
they,
yeah.
Yeah, for some reason they think that they're never going to come back. Like, are they
Yeah.
never going to come back and play an NA tournament? And in any case, before the pandemic, most of the teams weren't even playing in NA tournaments. They're getting invited to the big tournaments.
Right.
So it's not like we're losing something. We're losing something when they just go for a little boot camp.
Yeah, and I mean, even that is even us going for like the extended final month or final 6 to 7 weeks of the year is like an extreme circumstance where I don't know, like we had like things. The whole blast situation kind of changed everything when they announced they wanted everyone to come to Europe, and that was like, oh, okay, well now we kind of have to go unless we want to play with high ping. So I mean, even that is like its own special situation where. You know, it's just a matter of the end of the year with COVID. Like this is just kind of throwing everything into the air. So, yeah, I think if that ever got to the point where like these teams of players and orgs were saying we're going to permanently move to Europe, that would be probably the biggest disaster for NA scene. Then we could have a conversation around the NA scene dying, right? Like if the teams and players are permanently leaving, and you lose that top crop of teams, and then there's no reason to have slots for the North American region. By the way, I can't think of a single tournament organizer who would allow that to happen. Like if I was ESL, I would just say no. Like you're not allowed to do that. Because like that would just destroy a whole region. So if that ever happens, which I don't think it will for many reasons, that would be like the real red alarm. But I think I don't know. I think there's also, I mean, even on top of like the hype and the bad headlines and the bad press that NA Counter-Strike gets lately, I think like you guys said, there's a lot of good teams popping up below us, the Whalers, Chaos. I mean, you guys rising up as ATK, and obviously maybe you need to fill some gaps in the team again and maybe start over a little bit and do it over. But you guys starting to pressure the top teams. There's another one that I'm forgetting. Triumph is actually doing pretty good for having just lost Scrim as well. So I think the biggest issue we have now is we've reverted back to that mentality where professional teams in North America have such a lack of professional teams and outsiders have such a lack of respect for the tier 2 teams in North America, where they're actually playing a lot better than they get credit for. And most of that is because nobody has a chance. There's not enough opportunities for these teams to show results and to build up a resume in terms of tournament placings and deep runs at events here in North America to get that kind of respect.
I've got a couple of angles on this. Like, one is, let's imagine, right, even though I agree it's a ridiculous premise, JT, like, obviously those players are just going to Europe for, like, a boot camp or, like, a couple of tournaments in a row, and then they're going to come home. Like, in case anyone doesn't know, spoiler, part of the reason why some NA pros haven't joined really big, high-profile teams in Europe is because NA pros tend to just want to stay at home in NA. They don't want to go and live in Europe, like, away from their family for years. Like, no one really wants to do that generally. I know people like you and the 100 Thieves guys have had to do it. It's like, that's a big sacrifice. Not many people will do that. So to me, that's already like overblown. But let's imagine for a second, let's accept the premise. Let's say it was real. Let's say EG and Team Liquid are going to Europe and they're never coming back, right? If anyone knows the way markets work, it wouldn't just be a vacuum forever. Like, logically, first of all, if I'm a bunch of other skilled players, like maybe the people in Gen G, right now we get all the attention. We're the best NA team. We're in all the NA tournaments. We're going to win all the NA qualifiers. Like, logically, that vacuum will be filled. Like, I would even then build an NA team if I'm a new org coming in. I'd tell a new orgs coming in to Counter-Strike, you want to make a team? NA's the place to go. They're going to have an easier minor. Like, there's a million factors actually that like kind of would play out. It would hurt in a way, but it would help in a different way. Like, it'll never be as black and white as that. And then what was the other part? What were you guys just? The other angle here as well is this. Moses knows this. From even as long back in the day as 1.6, I was always sick of that whack storyline that you always hear from the top 2 to 3 NA teams. It goes like this. Oh, well, the reason why we lost to the Europeans is because when we practice, it's just pure shit. And there's only like us 3.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
And unless we practice each other, like basically it's like no practice, bro. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, in that scenario, I think JT's team is the ultimate example. Because when you guys came up, you already had a proper professional playbook by the time you joined Cloud9. You were running real executes. You had loads of innovations you've made on maps, like tweaks to strats. Like, if a team like Team Liquid or 100 Thieves or Evil Geniuses practices you, just shoots you in the head with the crosshair and goes, nothing I could learn from this game, then they're idiots. Like, if you're a boxer, you don't fucking spar at 100% and like it's a real fight. The idea is you want the guy to know technique. You want to know what I'm practicing. Like, practice isn't even about winning the scrim. Like, that's such in my opinion, I know there are some teams that are just scrimmers and they're just playing stupid as well and doing random stuff. But this team's trying real strats as well. Like, you can get something from that game, in my opinion, if you go in with the right mindset.
Yeah. Exactly. I think a big problem with NA is that they're treating their practice schedules as like 90% scrims, when in actual fact, like the scrum just be like the testing ground. It should be like your 40%, your 30% of what you're actually doing in practice, so that you can actually build upon something. That's in my opinion, at least.
Were you guys doing like theory stuff? Is that what you're implying? Because obviously, I mean, there must be somewhere where you come up with all this shit, right?
Well, yeah. So we used to do 4 scrims, and then we changed to like 3 scrims instead every single day, and then we would do like 2 hours plus of just server work, and then in between scrims we would be watching like the VODs of the scrims that we actually played. So it was more like only like half of our practice schedule ended up being scrims, and I think that worked better for us. But I guess teams are different, so that was just our thing.
Oh, there's
We
another
just do, like,
thing.
an hour before.
You do an hour
First
before? Okay.
Yeah.
That's legit. I mean, people obviously wouldn't know that. Is that even now after Steel's gone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there's another angle as well, by the way. I hate to get political, but if Americans won't do the fucking job, we'll go get the Aussies, we'll get fucking South Africans, Brazilians. We'll bring anyone over there. If that fucking money's there, someone's going to come get that bread. So,
You're tired, you're sick, you're poor.
exactly. Who wants to work? Basically, just make a statue of me, put that on Ellis Island, saying about bring all the Counter-Strike players in. That's what I'll do. I will flood your country with immigrants.
Yeah, statue of Thorin fucking over there.
Exactly.
Best Photoshop wins. No, I mean that's one of the things that I did with Team Liquid as well, was drop that 4th scrim off the schedule and only do 3 scrims. Because once you get to that 4th scrim, it's like everyone's fucking exhausted.
Yes.
Like even if you want to practice something, like people are gonna miss smokes. People are gonna just they just lose focus, they lose energy, lose enthusiasm. So yeah, just a best of 3 a day I think is a nice place to be. But yeah, yeah, it's the mentality part. That's what's so weird to me is, like, I will say the hardest part about practice in North America isn't the teams we play against. It's that it's the same teams that we play against
Right.
so much. It's like the variety of teams you can compete against. So it's not that like I play Chaos or I play Whalers or I play anyone and we beat them 25-5. We can still learn from that. But when you play the same teams, you're not seeing as many different ideas come out. Like, you're used to playing against these teams. You're not getting like challenged and stimulated like mentally about how to overcome a problem. You kind of know what they're going to do. And at that point, it is nice to a degree. It comes down to like how well you guys execute all the tactics, right? So you get some work there, but you don't have to see anything new and learn how to adjust or adapt on the fly. I think that's probably the biggest part. But it's weird. I've talked about this before. There is this like odd mentality when you start being a successful Counter-Strike player that it's cancerous, and it seems to like build in slowly, and I don't really know always when it strikes players. But if you think of like, I think the MIBR guys were like the perfect example, where remember when they like came over to North America and they were playing in Brazil for years on end and they were slowly improving, and eventually they became, they got their consistent legends, and then they win the majors, and then eventually like the tune changes. It's not so much that we bust our ass and that we work hard, it's that practice in North America isn't good enough, and practice here we're not getting as much done. It's not as efficient. Teams aren't as good. And it's like, yeah, but you played in the same situation to get to where you are to win a major. What's changed? Like, it's not the teams that you're playing against, it's the mentality about how this practice. Now you're looking at it, from the top as a champion, and the mentality has shifted instead of at the bottom trying to climb the ladder. And I think that mentality is the biggest problem, and that's the one that's always permeated, even for the past 20 years, Duncan. You know this, back to like 2002.
Yes.
Players in North America have always had this really, really fragile mentality when it comes to things like that.
I'll even throw in there as well, like, probably the most ignorant part about the claiming like NACS is dead is, well, no one could fucking travel internationally. Like, I'll tell you what will make the practice way better tomorrow, Moses. Let's have ESL New York on fucking LAN. And then all the teams that go there and arrive a week early or 2-3 days early, they're going to play some scrims. That means some team that doesn't... You're not just playing Furia now. Now you're playing, I don't know, fucking G2 or Na'Vi or something. Like, immediately, like, as soon as the circuit comes back, you're going to get scrims. You're going to get games. Mate, Flashpoint's a great example. Not only... obviously we didn't have the best teams, but in the future, if there's better teams, if you're going to LA or wherever it might be for a month... That's a fuck ton of scrims that Xeppaa and JT all can play against these teams. Yeah. I'll even say on the talent angle, like watching Flashpoint, actually opened my eyes to a whole bunch of players. I didn't know how good they were. Admittedly, yes, some of it might be that it's online and there's those aspects, but like you would have never noticed these players otherwise. So I refuse to believe watching these tournaments that like if I see the Triumph guys came up, the Chaos guys come up, your team JT, like there's no way these are just miracles. There has to be more talent out there. It's just people also, that's another problem. They've just decided there's no talent. They haven't looked. They've just decided, right, that's it. We've got all the best players now. Somehow they're all at the top. They're all in the best teams. And everyone else is just shit. Like, they're all like people. Like, because here's the angle people would always argue, right? They'll accept that you might be talented if you're brand new. But if you've been in the scene a long time, they'll never accept that you're good. I've got one name that'll just show that that's nonsense. Floppy. Didn't he play in like fucking 10 seasons of MDL or something? Yeah, like this guy was getting like the fucking Gold Watch Lifetime Achievement Award for MDL. Like, and obviously now everyone's loving it. He's fucking popping off if he gets in. So there's got to be more talent. What do you think, Xeppaa? Like it's not that long ago you were playing at the low level. Like there must be other good players there that just haven't even been noticed.
I gotta feel my mind like Fang, B Wills. I think if Ponolan was younger, since his age is like he is 30. Like if he was like 16, 18, I think he'd be in a top team too. This guy, he'd be a top player too. I mean, those are the three I have in my mind. Like DJ, B was a Fang, and Ponolan 4.
Actually,
yeah, go on.
I actually don't know why people think there's like an age cap when playing Pro CS. Like, what is getting older really affecting you when you play you're just playing Counter-Strike? Like, I don't think getting older actually really affects anything.
I can answer this question.
I was saying this too, because like in real life sports, like people hitting their primes around like 28 to like 34, and like I don't see how like being old in CS like affects you, to be honest. Maybe your reaction slightly lower, but I don't feel like it's that big of a deal.
It's not the reactions or the skills. It's like just generally you have more stuff going on outside of the game. Yeah, like whether it's family, whether it's like, I right when I switched to coaching, I bought a house, and I can just say the amount of hours that I have to focus on the house, like it's a very long day having to work on a house in the morning and then come back and do practice. So once those priorities start coming in, I think that's the roughest part. And the fact that I learned this early on, but I think some people don't realize it so much, especially pros that always feel like they're a little bit established and are a little bit arrogant about their position. It sneaks up on you because there's always like some 17-year-old kid who has like, 18 hours in a day to put into Counter-Strike. Yes. And when you are that young, you want to play the game 15 to 18 hours a day. You want to be pugging. You want to be deathmatching.
You want that RWS.
Yeah.
You want that graphics card or whatever it is. The
once you hit 30, you're like, I can, I'll just end this night early a little bit, or whatever it might be. I'll go have a drink with some friends, or I'll go spend the night by, I don't know, whatever you do at night or anything. But yeah, it's that.
Well, if anyone saw Flashpoint 1, we know what Dapper does at night. So, do you remember that interview? Listen, he's a busy boy. I think his job, if he retires from CS, handyman. That would be my obvious. No, the thing is, Moses, it's interesting that you actually bought a house when you joined Team Liquid, because some would say that Team Liquid bought the farm when you joined. So,
yeah,
whatever. Anyway, that's all my material for now. So we've got to the end of the notebook.
No, but I do also want to say, I mean, while we're on that subject of you guys having to climb up and some of the players having to climb through MDL, I think one of the biggest things that this has exposed, this whole like NA is dead thing, I think to people in the know, I think it's kind of showed, it felt like we'd kind of solved a lot of the issues in the scene that plagued North America from like 2012 to like 2015, 2016. And we started to feel like once we saw Liquid competing, once Cloud9 was competitive and obviously won the major, once EG and the NRG guys started rising up through the ranks, it kind of felt like we'd solved a lot of the issues, and I think it just kind of exposed that none of that was like, that was just kind of like a facade.
It's not permanent.
Like, yeah, no, I think the battle between ESEA and FACEIT to establish Rank S versus FPL was really, really fucking damaging to the scene. I think there's a lot of money that's placed in the wrong part of the North American scene, where the prize and the incentives are on individuals to succeed and not as much on teams to succeed. And I think that's a huge issue. But I think there's just, I've had the conversation with at least one tournament organizer about different ways to kind of make this scene healthy, but we're missing a lot of things. We're missing Europe, when Complexity formed that lineup and went to Europe, they played in like 6 of those home story cups in like 7 weeks. We've got nothing like that in North America. We have absolutely nothing.
Recently, they ESEA and FACEIT actually put some of their money back into team tournaments. I don't know if you saw, they called like the Cash Cups, FPL Cups, ESEA Cups and stuff. There's like 2 a week.
Cool.
So I
Yeah,
think
easily
it's
those
still
two
going
weeks,
in.
I don't know if
Well,
it's
they're
it.
finally going in the right direction, in my opinion.
How many teams are who's playing in those? I'm assuming it's like the Triumphs and the Chaoses, and are you guys
Yeah.
in those?
I think we just played or we're playing the Cash Cup against Team One in the finals on like Wednesday
Okay.
or something like that. But
Nice.
usually we didn't play it until we have nothing to play for now, so that's what
Yeah.
we decided to
Yep.
play. But yeah, a lot of top MD like Team One, Whalers, Triumph, like a lot of the other teams.
That's
play.
sick. That's great. Like we were missing those things, and obviously when Lance can come back, one of the North American scene at one point was vibrant. I don't even know if this will ever be able to come back because of maybe the expenses of it or the logistics of it, but they're like regionalized lands, like East Coast land, Texas lands, California lands, and Midwest lands, and all 4 regions had like their own little land circuit that you could go to and you could travel to, and you would, drive down for just a weekend and play like a 2-day event. I don't know how realistic things like that are these days with how much that could possibly cost, but North America needs some kind of a land circuit. So I mean, even it's odd. One of the biggest hits I think is that Fragadelphia is getting pretty big into Valorant as well. I think they're one of like the
really?
big. I think aren't they doing the first strike event? I could be way off on
Could
that.
believe it.
I haven't brushed up on my
I'm
Valorant.
not sure.
But like they were like doing that, Fragadelphia was doing their 2 Counter-Strike tournaments a year. I don't know if those will continue, but those were huge for the scene. Like that was like the one like mid-sized land that the semi-pro scene and like the amateur scene had to look forward to throughout the year. We have nothing else like it.
Yeah, I actually see what you mean as well, by the way, Musk. I was wondering what you meant by like the money's in the wrong places, but I actually agree. Because, I mean, we've bemoaned it in the past, not even just for NA. The problem with stuff like FPL is for what it's trying to do, find like young aimers who are like skilled, it's brilliant, but that's all it finds. It would be like, think about all those singing shows that people love to watch, like everyone's fucking mums are just watching, where it's like, oh, I had cancer and I was homeless and oh, la la la, and then oh my god, I hope he wins. Like all that does though is find singers, right? There's nothing like that for guitarist, drummer, right. like there's no band show like that. I mean, there are sort of versions that aren't as popular though. So the problem is like, in this sense, like what is there for teams to compete in? Because I agree, I've always said about those FPL type scenarios, the worst thing about them is you're going to find some 10s. Like you'll find the skilled players. You'll never find some sick in-game leader there. You'll never find a guy who's going to be like the next great support player. So like that's another thing this ties into, which is always like this is another thing that the NA scene dying thing has exposed. It's just exposed problems that were already there but no one addressed. So a classic problem no one addresses is, and we all know this, and by the way guys, I know you guys are like younger, this has been a problem since day one, which is when you go to the MDL level, so the level below pro, where maybe you're at best like semi-pro or you want to be pro one day, right? When they get there, people act as though, oh no, but I'm not pro yet, so I can do anything I want. I can just leave a team because I didn't make playoffs, or I just lost, so I'm going to go and join the team I lost against, or you know what, me and the star player of this other team are going to say fuck you and kick the in-game leader and he's coming to my team. Like no one does what JT did, which is you make a real team and just stick with it. Actually make a real team, like find your roles, spend time playing together so you can have a real tactic. Don't just play, if you only play like Triumph style, here's the bad news Triumph. One of you ends up looking really good, he goes to Team Liquid, and the rest of you go back to square zero. And so you might have a bunch of other good players, but we won't know until you get another Grim in the team. Like it's short-sighted, that approach. Like it's kind of like you're just entering a lottery to see who the next good fragger is. You got to come up as a team. You got to see like who, like if you find a player who's a good player and can play his role and you can play your role, at least stay together. Even if the whole team can't, just take him to your next team with you. Like you got, because it, like think about it, right? All the great European teams that are going to be at that LAN that you're dreaming you're going to win the qualifier for, their core's been together like 4 years. 5 years, like how are you going to compete with that? It doesn't matter how good you are. Like they've got the skills and they've stayed together for that many years. Like that's one thing I think have got to be fixed in the NA scene. No matter how much money, how many players there are, people have got to start playing like it's a sport. Any thoughts, boys?
Yeah, no, even if you just look at the lower level European teams, just say for example like Gambit Youngsters, they've been a team for like 2 years and they haven't even been really playing pro most of that period of time. But then if you look at like MDL teams in North America, how many of those teams even existed 6 months ago? Like most of those cores they weren't even playing together 6 months ago.
If people don't know,
they're just always new teams.
There's actually another example as well, which is people don't know this. The Virtus Pro guys, when they were a Vanguard, they had some stat like they'd played together, like four of them for 2 years or something together, 2 or 3 years. Just like it, now we didn't know because they were nobodies, but that's the point. They didn't just quit and go and join fucking Flipside or whatever. Like they didn't just all break apart immediately.
They're also from Kazakhstan, so I mean, I think that probably has a hard time getting exposure from that part of the country or that part of the
All
world.
right, well, we'll pick 50 fucking MDL pros and drop them in Kazakhstan, see if they ever make it out.
The only way to make it out is if you qualify for Pro CS.
Exactly. See you in the major, bitch.
Now that's reality television.
Exactly. Oh yeah, make a show out of it, of course, mate. Could you even imagine some like middle class fucking American kid just having to go to Kazakhstan for like, what the fuck am I doing here?
I'm not gonna lie, I have Kazakhstan on my list of places that I want to travel to.
It's actually beautiful. People don't know those Borat movies are just stupid comedy. None of that's like in that movie, by the way. Like that's just he made all that shit up. Obviously, like it's not like that at all. I'm sure it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I do want to go there. I don't know why. I really do. But you know, I think there's another angle of this I was thinking about a lot as we've seen different. You know, I think one of the other big issues we have in North America is, God, team orgs for Counter-Strike just suck. Like the orgs, like the big name orgs, like all the orgs here are run by League of Legends owners, are run by COD owners, are run by
it's all multi-game orgs
from
pretty
other
much.
games,
Yeah.
which is fine. I don't mind that whatsoever. But like, to have an owner come in who doesn't really understand Counter-Strike or the game or the scene, and also not hire somebody who has that understanding of the game or the scene, and then depart. Like, at this moment, if you, like, all these owners who come in and see how big Counter-Strike has been the last few years and say they want to be part of it because it's got all this viewership, they want their brand to be involved, they want their team to grow into it. Like, now is the time to be investing in a North American Counter-Strike team. It has to be so cheap compared to the salaries of other top teams going out of other professional teams, and there are like very few like really established teams in Pro League. Like it can't, like it might be hard and it might take a little bit of time, but I mean you can buy cheap now, and whether you sell players or whether you get your team there or whether it becomes a great success story, this is the time where you want to be doing it. But we don't have any owners who are dedicated to it. Like I hated seeing 100 Thieves leave, obviously. I hated seeing Cloud9 go to Europe, although I understand why they've done that, and I understand with Henry being involved, it kind of forces it to go to Europe in that sense. TSM having their step into Counter-Strike and not coming back just yet. All these orgs that think they have to get into Counter-Strike by buying a top lineup, like I feel like they, like, listen, I am new to being on the team side of things,
sure,
but they've got to have some pretty shit advisors. Like, how's nobody brought up this idea of saying you can get a cheap lineup right now and build it up over time and see where it goes, and you build content around it, and you start building up your entire Counter-Strike division from the bottom with a team that's coming up from the bottom as well. There's got to be something there for these orgs that they can find value in, that where they're not coming in and what Cloud9 dropped, what, $6.5–7 million in this new lineup?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go that route. Why does everyone think you have to go that route?
Put it this way. If I was like someone, like let's say an owner came to me, like you're talking about here, Moses, and what they tell me is, like as you're saying, those orgs only want to come in for the stars. They want to come in and they want to be top 10 immediately. So they're only coming in to get like a buy EG's roster or something, right? So let's say someone comes in though, and as you're saying, they say, listen, I want to be in Counter-Strike, but I don't want to spend 5 million, but I want to at least like be relevant, and then I want to build it over time. What I would do is I would tell them, don't use some guy who was like your manager from fucking Overwatch or League of Legends and have him like look on Reddit and HLTV and go, oh, this player's good. Like literally, I'm not joking. I would tell him like, get my boy Maui Snake. He's your general manager. All you're going to do is he's going to tell you the next best team that doesn't have a good org. And then he's just going to tell you a little short list of 3 or 4 names, maybe some of the people Xeppaa just said. And then they're the players you add. Like that would be so cheap relative to the millions for the Super Duper team. But that team, if it does well and is coached well, they can crack top 20 maybe. Like the actual bang for your buck would be crazy high.
Yeah. I don't understand why no one's taking that. I don't know why any of these orgs who, like, I get it, like it's not just maybe not knowing Counter-Strike, maybe you want to invest more money in Valorant, but this is such a cheap investment in the long term. It seems so crazy. I just can't believe no one's doing it. And I think that's a big problem as well. We have a visibility problem here in North America. This is another thing I brought up to the TO that I spoke to about different ways is, if your only way of getting noticed is playing in FPL and playing Rank S and then having your own stream and maybe getting a highlight on Reddit, like I can't believe that some of these semi-pro divisions and leagues don't have more content being created around them, frag highlights, clips, something being pumped out by, I mean, well, spoiler, to kind of explain this, I'll just say I did speak to ESL. It's not like a secret. I don't know why I was making it out to be a secret. But, like, I can't believe MDL doesn't have more attention. Like, when you guys were playing in MDL, I don't even know when your matches are. I don't even know who's doing good in MDL. I don't even know any of the standings. And this is another thing. Like, I mean, I think the semi-pro division has to be a series of tournaments. It can't just be like a 2-month-long MDL league season. That's hard enough to do at the pro level. But, like, you know, if you guys have someone popping off in MDL, nobody outside of MDL knows about it. Like, I never knew who was doing good in MDL, team or player.
I think it's just because it's still seen as like an amateur league. I just, even in terms of like the scheduling, it's up to the teams when they play and all that kind of stuff. So that I think if they just
Oh, really? It's still like the old school scheduling system where you just have a chat with the
as far as I know, I think as far as I know, yeah, it's been a while since I've been in MDL, but so it's like that. The game ends up getting scheduled the day before or something like that. How's any hype, like, or not hype, it's not really going to be a hype match, but how does any like attention get towards that game if it's just seen as like an amateur game? It's getting scheduled the night before and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's no predictability on when I can watch an MDL match. I just need, like, I have to go onto the ESA MDL page and see when a match is, or I have to go to HLTV, go open up ESA MDL season 38 or whatever it is this season, and I have to actually look for it. But if you go open up a ESL Pro League event page, you know exactly when the matches are. You know, cool. Yeah. I just need to get on at 12 p.m. today, and I'll be able to watch a Team Liquid match. But there's nothing like that with the MDL matches or any of the lower scene NA matches. But then if you go to Europe and you go look at their things like the Cubs, all that kind of stuff, MDL Cubs, that kind of stuff, it's much more professionally run. So I know when they're going to play. Like, I can go on Gamma Youngsters page and I can say, cool, I want to watch these guys watch these guys play, and I want to see what they're doing, and I know exactly when they're going to play. So it's much easier to follow it as a fan, in my opinion. And I think that's what a big thing that NA is missing.
If we're going to go this angle, I'll even give you another take. So if one of the problems is because these players aren't famous yet, so not that many people are going to tune in for like names they don't know, because as we say, another big problem is that the fucking teams change too quickly. So there's not even any like for example, like, was this guy in Bad News Bears, or is he now in this team, or was he was, but then he was in this. It's like the storyline just changes too fast. I'll give you an example. Here's what I would do. I would make it so that each week there's like the marquee match, it's the match of the week. This is like the two best teams facing off, or whatever. You know, you look on the standings, right? When you do that game, bring in a guest commentator. Like, if that game is commentated by two normal commentators and then like nothing, just is like a guest for one match, so people will tune in just to listen to that. If Sean Gares does one, if Steele does it, there's a fucking million people who would do it, by the way, if we're talking about not a big commitment, but you pay them to do the one get, like, that's a draw in itself. And in fact, if someone like Sean Gares or Steele's doing it, I'll watch it just to find out, like, what do they think of the players? Like, is this player good? Like, is it someone up and coming? Like, they could give so much value to the scene.
And also, the problem with MDL is like, at least like right now, like, it's only like 2 months, like you said. And a lot of these matches are like happening on the same day. It'll be like 5-6 matches, and like they're all playing literally at the same time, and like it's really hard to like watch. And
okay, yeah, well, that probably has to do with all the teams scheduling their own shit.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize that. That's a pain.
That needs to be fixed then, because there's another area. That's just professionalism. Yeah, let's also get it so that we can have a real schedule.
Well, it's part of the process of, like, you know, not only as a player, like learning how to be a pro player in the game itself, but learning how to be a pro in terms of the scheduling, in terms of the responsibilities and obligations, right? Like, that should be part of the whole process of getting to a point. In that, I mean, that is a pretty small detail of just scheduling matches, but you'd be surprised at how difficult sometimes it is in esports.
Oh, and by the way, this even some of the stuff we're talking about also ties back into other stuff. Like I was joking a little bit before about the imports, but I'll tell you what, if NA is more depleted now and I'm an org coming in, I'd say the first thing I'd do the second the borders open up, I'm bringing that Renegades team over. Why wouldn't I? Like, what a good gamble that is. Like, they're not going to break the bank because they're stuck in Australia, but they obviously have some skills. At least a couple of the players are going to be good. I would just fly them in immediately if there's a vacuum to fill.
Yeah, or start selling them to an org in NA. Like, you know, if you're not going to be able to do that, at least, you know, get some return on that investment and see if you can get them over there. Yeah, why the hell not? Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting hearing. I don't know. It's like I I know like rankings at the moment are a little bit scuffed because of this online era, and we don't really know how accurate all of them are. We're doing a very good job, I think, this scene of pretending like the online era is just basically the same performance level, like these teams that are like performing the same way they will on land when they come back, because we kind of have to. But there's 3 North American teams or teams out of this region in the top 10. Like that's actually not bad for North America at all. That's actually pretty good historically considered. Like that's kind of like a dream scenario if you just go back 3 years, 2 years.
I want to know from these two then, like, what do you have any problems with the NA scene that we haven't brought up, or you could bring out much more? Do you have any solutions? Do you have any good ideas in that sense? Like, what don't we see if we're only trying to watch Tier 1 CS, what are we not seeing that could be causing some of the issues where people feel like the scene's weaker or it's not progressing?
I got nothing. I think everything's already brought up, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Moses was saying about orgs not knowing like what kind of teams to pick up, I think a big problem is just orgs wanting a top 5 team instantly, but not every single org is going to be a top 5 team. If there's 30 orgs in CS, only 5 of them are going to be top 5, so you might as well. You don't have to be a top 5 team to be a successful org in the scene. Like there's other.
Exactly. Just look at Flashpoint.
There's orgs like Copenhagen Flames. They've sold like 12 players.
They sold everyone, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they've already like sold their children before they're born. Everything fucking amazing.
I mean, they're definitely successful, right? Like they're making their money back and all that kind of stuff. But they're not a top 5 team. Like that's not a prerequisite that you need to get into the scene. Well, at least I don't know. I don't think it is. I'm not involved with that kind of stuff, but.
I've never understood. I know Counter-Strike is kind of a hard game to make content for a variety of reasons, but I've never understood why some of these orgs that pick up teams or that have picked up teams historically that are like supposed to be like, they're not even like, I don't know, not like, they're like content orgs. Like 100 Thieves is obviously the easy example because I didn't really see a whole lot. I actually looked at their YouTube channel. I think across the entire 10 months that they had that roster, only 6 YouTube videos were made about them.
Do you think they'd have a reality series or something? What the fuck?
Yeah, and like one of them was like Fortnite players versus CS:GO players. One of them was like a case opening video, and like one of them was the announcement video of them, getting out of Counter-Strike. So,
well, at least it's got the 6th video though. Did get a 6.
But even just not bag on 100 Thieves because they're obviously an easy target at the moment. What about FaZe? Like, isn't FaZe supposed to be like the entire, like I know like the entire thing of joining FaZe, I know with like their COD players, you join FaZe and you instantly gain like 100,000 followers on Twitter. Why aren't these players being pumped out in that same way? Brands being built around the Counter-Strike players. Why aren't they working with them and building content around this team? Like, I don't understand how in every other game and every other facet of the esports industry, content is king, except for when it comes to organizations buying Counter-Strike teams and tournament organizers who just don't make content either for whatever reason. Like those, I don't understand how content rules everything and everyone knows it and it's in everyone's face except for Counter-Strike.
Wait a minute, were you just about he almost there started doing like that Wu-Tang Clan Cream, like content rules everything around me or so. I thought you were actually going to say that out loud for a second. They're like, unironic.
Wouldn't have been bad.
That's the title of the episode. Right, editor, take notes. That's the title of the episode. Make the thumbnail. Make everyone mad about clickbait. Thank you.
Go on.
I think that's actually a good thing to bring up because that's one of the best things that Cloud9 did with us. We did constantly every 2 weeks. We were like, pumping out videos, like 2 videos a week and all that kind of stuff. And we grew like a lot of fans just for us individually. And I think I don't understand why orgs like 100 Thieves and FaZe and all these other orgs are not doing any content. Like, it might be because of the players or because of the schedule of Counter-Strike and all that. But if you go look at these same orgs and you go look at their League of Legends teams, they have like documentary series that come out every month, all that kind of stuff. They have tutorial videos that the players are doing themselves. There's literally content every single week from these League of Legends teams. But the same orgs, you go look at their Counter-Strike teams, it's like they've never done a video. I don't even know what their players look like.
Say again, mate.
Even with over here at Chaos, like we do the Chaos comms where like these we record like our comms and shit like that, and we would release it in a video like a highlight, and it's really good.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of other top teams can do it. I feel like a lot of top teams like Liquid, FaZe, all these teams, like it'd be interesting to watch too.
There's another thing, by the way. On the player side, players have to also be actually engaging with shit like that and wanting to do it. You can't make it. It can't be like you're pulling teeth every time to get someone to do content. Like, for example, I did appreciate that when you guys in Cloud9, you've come on that Q&A loads of times. You've had your coach, you had you. I think we had like at least 2 or 3 different people over the thing. Meanwhile, there's other orgs. Jen, JT. Oh, sorry, my fucking throat's just killing me. Whatever other teams, some of them, you could fucking barely ever get them on the show. Mate, we had to get the one who, like, literally English wasn't even his first language. Even he came on. Again, I don't know who I'm talking about. Just any, whatever team it might be, you know. All I'm going to say is, fuck Gen G. No, whatever. We need people to actually step up to the plate. The thing about people don't get about that is, they seem to think genuinely that the only way you become famous as a player is shooting people in the head with the gun. It's like, listen, if you become simple, yeah, obviously people will watch your stream. You don't have to be simple to become a big streamer, mate, or to become a personality, or make people start getting interested in you. Like the irony is, people are on the way up, like Grim, these players that are coming to these top teams now. Like, I'd be building your personality now. Like, people are starting to get interested in you a little bit, so show them, flex it, like, go on shows, do interviews, do content with your org. And by the way, here's another reason to do content with your org. That's going to make your org think you are more valuable. Like, if they know you're easy to work with and you do the things you're asked, that's going to help along with just the results in the server. Like, if you're someone who doesn't do that shit, now you can only win by doing it in the server. And if you don't, they're going to fucking chip you out there real quick. Like, some of those European players, there's even European star players where it pisses their orgs off if they won't do any of that stuff, if they only play the matches.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I think Counter-Strike as a whole is missing like a critical part of most other esports, where I think every other game and every other esport is like, when you talk about like a community, like a Counter-Strike community or a League of Legends community or Valorant community, whatever it is, there's obviously like a mixture, right? You have like the esports, the professional scene, you have like the casual players, those are the easy ones, and then you have the streamers, and then you have the YouTubers and the content creators, and then you have like the commentators, and then you have the personalities, and then you have like the pundits. But in Counter-Strike, we're missing like the huge part. Like, obviously Counter-Strike's not a great streaming game. Like, it's always going to get blown out of the water by a game like Valorant. Valorant's just like more fun to watch streamers play. It's a little bit crazier, but like, content isn't even being made, and even the ability to create that content for content creators isn't even really always there. Like, teams aren't providing a whole lot to that community in terms of independent creators being able to latch onto things and just create. And we have like this real big chunk of the community is just like withered and died, and it's all the content that's outside of the competitive aspect of the game. Like, it's all the content that doesn't involve actual esports, that doesn't involve actual matches, is just missing right now. And we need to find some way to bring that back as well. It's specifically in North America, although all over the place. And most of it stems from the fact that our esports scene is very suffocating of the schedule and the calendar. But these are all parts of the community that are just like dying, that just don't have enough attention, that can't garner attention for the casual fans. Sorry, I've been thinking about this a lot lately.
It's all right. It's all right.
I can't say the same.
I think another thing
I think about myself playing these matches, scrimming.
Another big thing about the content is even if you guys don't play well, like, you can just keep doing content by yourself. Like, if you're doing content with your team, once you stop playing, you're a big name now. You're like a Sean Gears now, something like that. You can do your own YouTube series, all that kind of stuff. So you can just keep going. But if you just rely solely on your playing, as soon as you stop playing like shit and you retire, whatever, you're done. Like, you didn't do any content the whole 6 years of your professional career, and now you're done. Like, you have nothing else to do unless you become a coach or anything like that. But not everyone can become a coach.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a tough job.
Listen, if you do it,
you should get paid way more.
If you do a good enough job, you don't even have to actually play the game anymore. You can just go around going like, "Papito, love you, bicep," and then you just get paid like fucking 20k a month anyway. So it sounds amazing. Don't even have to lose in the Counter-Strike game anymore. Love you, Pasha. I bet he gets way more. Yeah, no, he probably gets like a fucking 100k. The real joke there is, listen, you know what? I'm going to give everyone the ultimate example of why getting into like the streaming side and actually building your profile will also help your career a lot. Right? One time, I won't say the event or the person, but I'll just put it out there. Moses one time was at a big event and he just happened to unfortunately overhear how much they'd paid a really big name streamer to come and only play the show match. And put it this way, Moses almost tilted off the face of the planet because it was like what Moses would have made in like 4 of those events or something like. And Moses isn't badly paid, by the way. That's the point I'm making here. Like,
I'll tell you the worst one. This wasn't even like someone coming to the event. This org was this production company, this TO was trying to get me to come, I was at the event. They were trying to get someone else to come to the event to play, like a streamer to come to the event to bring hype to like a different tournament that they were running. And as at the time, I was like waiting on an invoice being paid that was like a month late or something like that. And I heard what they had offered this guy to come, and it was in the six figures. It was well into six figures. Why, like, just to come for 2 days to play like a like meaningless like 2 day.
Was this like a celebrity or something?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And it was like healthy 6-figure offer to come in for a weekend, and I was sitting there with like an invoice that was like, I don't know, like $5,000 or something that had been like, that was like a month late at the time. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was just so fucking mad. Ruined me for like 2 days. I was just not in the mood to do anything. But yeah, it's if you build up that side of the business, because I mean, it's exactly what most sponsors and most non-endemics are looking for. The streaming, they're looking for YouTube channels, looking for that kind of content, active Instagrams. And if you're not building that up now, I think it would even shock people to know how much like non-successful streamers would make. Like if you go to like the middle or low tier of streamers, there's actually still some pretty fucking healthy deals for streamers that are only averaging like 200 viewers a day. You know, they actually can get pretty decent like endorsement deals, which is wild to think about as well. But you know, that part is critical. Although I think I don't know, it is a fine line to ride, and I think the hard part with Counter-Strike is, again, because we haven't been able to get any of our schedule nailed down. I know for like me, like I'm all about players having the responsibility to the orgs and fulfilling those of content and streaming, but you know, I also find it very difficult to ask someone to stream, you know, when they only get like a week off like every 2 or 3 months. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to make you stream 15 to 20 hours if like you've been on the road for the past month. Like that's unreasonable as fuck. So again, this, like, it seems like a lot of problems that we have circle back to the scheduling issue, but there are areas of this scene that are just unhealthy because it's way too stacked towards the constant esports, constant tournaments, constant grind of the professional player, and not enough towards the casual fan base, not enough towards the content side of things, not enough towards the streamer side of things. And again, that's just things that we need to work on as a whole.
Actually, I have a question for you. Like, Xeppaa, this is one that you can answer maybe, mate. Right? One of the problems always in the NA scene as well is, for some reason in esports, I still think in Counter-Strike this is a terrible structure. The circuit goes like this, right? When we have the LANs, normally you invite, like, it's usually about like 8 teams, and then you have like qualifier spots for the others, say it's like a 12-team LAN or something, you know. And when they do those qualifiers, what I've never understood is the worst position to always be in is to be like the 10th best team in the world. Because then like the other 8 teams get invited, and then it's not like you just get to like be in the final of the qualifier. You start at the beginning of the qualifier with like everyone else, like you and like Billy and his fucking sheep and his cousin, and like everyone has to start and play like 700 games in a day. So it's like, to me, I've always thought the drop-off was so crazy. So like, if you're actually stuck at the level below where no one's discovered yet, how hard is it to actually prove yourself in like qualifiers? Like, is it a needle in the haystack? What is it like in that scenario?
It kind of just depends where you're at, like, and who you're playing with. Like, it depends who's on your team and connections. Like, if you're in that bottom team and like, let's say you're like unknown, it's kind of hard to be like at that top, because like if you're unknown, like you're not in these like scrim groups where you're playing against these like top pro teams. And like, let's say like when I joined, like I had like Steel, Josh, and Vanity, who were like already in the pro scenes, and like going from those like bottom qualifiers, it was easy for us because we already played these top teams and these scrims already, so we know what we're doing. So I mean, for other teams like maybe like the low MDL teams, and like they don't have that same connections where they're playing against like these top teams already. How like they're just not prepared well enough when they're like playing through the qualifiers, and that's why like sometimes they don't make it through.
How does that shit work? Is there like a couple of teams in those groups where like they control who gets in and who's out, and you have to like impress them? Like, how do you get into the groups?
To a certain extent, like once you make MDL, there's like this big MDL group where like, you know, all these MDL teams are here, and like also the pro teams like would sometimes come down to see. Like, there's 2 different Skype groups, I think, because I'm not in it, but I think there's like one Skype group where like all the top tier pros and NA, and then there's another one where there's like an MDL group where we would just, you know, go back and forth to find scrims and things like that.
Yeah, there's 3 groups for finding scrims.
I don't know if this is going to be like a classic dead horse debate, but I'll bring it up anyway. Is it still a problem in NA? Because I know for individual players, there's always been something that held them back. That like anyone who gets half decent just instantly starts talking shit to everyone. Like they're talking shit to players that they probably want to play with, like fucking like, and like that obviously that just ruins your career. Like everyone's just going to go fuck this guy. Like unless you're literally like 10 times better than them, they're just not going to recruit you. Is that still a thing?
I don't want to. I mean, there's a certain person. I don't want to say his name because I don't think he's playing CS anymore. He recently got kicked out of FPL. I'm sure you guys know.
Keep narrowing it down more. What's his name begin with? I don't know. Well, someone can guess that. We'll look it up.
I would say Whippy. Whippy was a big one. I mean, now like nobody really talks shit. I mean, I think everybody in the scene like good, like they know each other and like good friends. Okay. I think, and Whippy was like the only one who like in FPL would like shit talk everybody.
That's fucked up, man. Dude, shit talking is an important part of the Counter-Strike experience. As long as you don't cross that line, as long as you don't go too far, but you can talk a lot of shit.
Problem is, how are you going to talk shit when you're like Whippy?
I typed everybody I know. It's so funny. I love it.
Well, that's the whole brand of you guys' team is just talking shit.
Well, that and cheating against MIBR, you know, give them credit. They've done a lot this year.
It's been a good 2020 for Chaos.
Exactly. Here's the thing. Everyone always says, playing Counter-Strike, look, at the end of the day, it's just a game. It's not life or death. Try asking fucking Leaf. He disagrees.
That's not bad. That's
not bad. Yeah, no, but yeah. Someone write that down. Well, here's the thing. We'll just edit. You'll see when it gets edited, boys. All the awkward shit I've said will be edited out. I'll look straight fire at the end. You know, like, just have all the high point. I'll edit in a fucking round of applause at one point in time. I've got skills. It's all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what is the big change? Didn't FPL just come up with some pretty big changes recently?
Well, they
added a bunch of MDO teams and a couple advanced players even to FPL.
Okay. Is that an improvement?
Improvement as in like quality of the games? Not really. But now that, I mean, before FPL wasn't even popping for like the last like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even popping. And now like every day has been like at least 12, 15 games a night. So I mean, it's better now. For sure.
I guess that's kind of like the white whale of the FPL and Rank S strategy is how do you can improve, you can bring in players so that it's always popping and it's active, but how do you improve the quality of them? Do you guys have any idea? Is there an actual way to do it while also having enough players?
The problem is right now is that there isn't any tier 1 like players playing like Liquid, G or EG even playing like Art plays. That's about it. Like not even 100 Thieves player when they're here, they weren't playing either.
Okay.
Well,
I think one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, the reason why it wasn't popping is because they kept kicking every single player that they invited. So every time a new player would join, he would just get kicked after like 2 weeks. And I think the standard was a little too high. I think they're trying to. It's not going to be an EU FPL. EU has 1,000 players that could be in FPL and play well, right? But it's NA, so there's not as many. The scene's not as big. There's not as many players, so they need to, in my opinion, just lower the standards, let these players play there, and they might actually get better, and then the quality of the games will increase by itself. They just, I don't know.
Well, the thing is, I even heard in EU FPL, though, they had a similar problem where what would happen is, right, they would let in someone who was like a prospect, but then because he's joining a team and, you know, like the team would be like fucking Nico, Simple, like, you know, some insane players, he'd feel intimidated. He'd play like the shit role, like fucking B Anchor on Mirage CT side, get absolutely dicked, and then they'd go, this guy's shit, kick him out, he's ruining the team. It's like, well, how is it ever going to improve? Like, they can't run a system like that.
It's a weird. That's what I was going to say. And this is a problem I think at every step, especially in the North American scene. I can't really speak to the European scene, but players obviously when they get into FPL for the first time are going to have a lot of improvement to make. And if they don't improve or they're not good enough, they can get kicked easily. But also when the pro players have to be willing to play in those environments and take them seriously to help these players improve, and that's going to make the scene healthy. And it's the same thing for playing against like the tier 2 teams and the semi-pro teams, is when you scrim them, you have to take it seriously and you have to still kind of respect the game, and you can't just have a breakdown because you feel like they're doing shit wrong, because they are going to do shit wrong, and it is going to feel scrimmy at times because they're still learning. Yes. And if you're not taking it seriously, they're never going to learn properly. And I think that's where we have like the chicken and the egg, where the pro player doesn't want to really take time or any effort or have any patience to pass those skills on or help those players or teams improve. Therefore, the next teams down don't improve nearly as quickly, which makes the pro player think that the scene is fucking wrecked and it is shit and then FPL's shit. And it's like, you're not giving them any chance. You're not helping them and you're not giving them time. So there's nothing that they can do to actually improve to a level to where you're going to change your mind. So there is like a very stubborn and shitty interaction between the already established pro teams and players and the semi-pro teams and players. I imagine that's somewhat true in Europe, although probably a little bit better. Did you guys face any of that when you were coming up with the pro players?
Not really. I mean,
just naturally skilled?
Any players were just very welcoming for us, and we just got invited to FPL as soon as it reopened. So,
I mean, I had a rough couple of days for me when I qualified. I wasn't playing very good, and then I mean, over time, I just played better.
Yeah, you just fuck up a lot and then learn, and eventually you get there.
Yeah, well, imagine you got kicked after 2 weeks, and then
I had a rough
again, and now you wouldn't be in Chaos, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
There we go. There we go. All right, he's woken up.
That's pretty crazy. Man, that would suck. I don't know. This is like going to be an old guy moment, but I mean, Duckwood, you'll remember this stuff too. Like, we didn't only have teams back
dragging me into it, of course, as well. You're older than me. Come on, yeah, come on. All right.
I need someone to back me up when I tell these fucking old man stories. No, but we had like our teams back in the day, and then we had like club teams. Like, remember we had like 1G, we had One Hit, we had SEAL Team, and there were obviously a couple more over the years.
Basically like a PUG team almost, but
you'd have like 20 members of
exactly.
it, and you would just grab 5 players from your PUG team and play against 5 players from another, and there was like nothing official about it, but we took that shit seriously. Like that shit was like pride. Like, you weren't just playing with like your standard team. You were like, SEAL Team is the better club than One Hit or 1G, and we obviously were. But like, I don't understand, like there's got to be some level of pride in that, in how you play even those PUG games and those FPL games. If they're not taken seriously, like, how's anyone going to improve? Like, that should be where you're trying new moves or new plays as an individual or a new spot, and you can learn a lot from even those. And I've never understood why. I guess maybe it's the streamer culture. Like, do you guys find there's an issue with people, like so many people like streaming for content instead of actually trying to play the game to improve?
Well, I can't say much because when I joined FPL, the only streamers that really stream was probably like Tarek and Jason R. But like, it's not like I even played that much FPL to like have like a say, so I can't really say anything.
Like, Tarek invited me to play. He was play some, not FPL, just Face It, just some Face It pugs one night, and I remember it was like the first games I'd played in a long fucking time, but it was like the fastest games of Counter-Strike I'd played. Like, I think T-sides were like 15 minutes long. Like, both T-sides were just rushes from our team and their team. It was just every round, they're rushing somewhere. Long A, catwalk, middle, B. It's a rush everywhere you go. It's not like an actual game of Counter-Strike, and that was like blowing my mind. I'm like, why is no one playing the game?
Why? I mean, that's how it is in FPL sometimes too. A lot of it is like really like the game. Like, I don't know. The rounds just end like a minute and like 20 seconds, 15 seconds.
I think a lot of those games that end up like that is the games that have no IGLs on both teams.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's not a lot of IGLs in NA, so you join up an FPL game and suddenly you just have 10 riflers that just don't really talk much and they're just trying to play the game.
Premature execution. See, what you got to do, boys, is you got to pace yourselves. Work up to it. Foreplay. You got to set things up before you go in there and lay a pipe. I mean, I do the strats and that.
Yeah, even when you have 10 rifles, you call default, and like these people are just like still trying to like walk out B in first like 5 seconds of the round, just die. So it's like, yeah, default worked.
Walk out B first. Like, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
But yeah, I don't think that it's people aren't trying. Like, people definitely are trying.
It's not a matter of not trying. It's just like why aren't we playing the game the way you're gonna play in the match, right? That was more my angle. Was like, you're not gonna be fucking rushing for 15 rounds in a match. So why aren't you actually trying to take something slow and respect a smoke once in a while, whatever it might be?
Here's the thing.
You do that, but then like you expect the other side to play the same way, and then it's just they be rushing too. So it's just how it is.
See, here's the thing. Today, right? Because obviously this will come out in a few days. Today was the day, by the way, where there was that crazy announcement that like Forza is like hiring that coach who did all the cheating, Zona, and they're gonna like have him coach their youth squad, right? Everyone's laughing at that. I think that's the solution. You have to use. It's like Paracelsus, the great medicine man and alchemist of the Middle Ages, Moses, said that the whole thing is every every poison is a medicine at a low enough dose. So what you need to do is, when all these fuckers get banned from MDL for match fixing, there's one way you're allowed back in the scene. Same as if you do a crime, community service. You now have to go and coach another fucking MDL team. You have to make them do it.
What is he
That's
gonna
my
be a fucking?
approach.
He's gonna be like the Russian Mighty Ducks. Is that what he is?
Yes. We're gonna make this guy. If you want to prove your, listen, do you really want to play Counter-Strike again? Go coach these cunts who don't even have an in-game leader. It's my idea.
Yeah. Sentence them to in-game lead from the spectator
Exactly.
of an FPL game, just in jail.
Well, I've got a quick question before we're coming towards the end here, but here's a quick, right, Xeppaa, this isn't a trick question in any way, but genuinely, right, I don't know how much you make, right? If I had to guess, actually I won't guess, 'cause it'd be rude, right? I think I could guess.
You can guess. Oh.
All right, just
I'll just say you're close enough.
don't say yes or no, but I'll guess you probably make like $6,000 a month. Like that's like a ballpark figure, I would say.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nothing. It's not like as crazy as like FaZe Clan, but it's not terrible either. By the way, there's EU teams who are in the top 10, top 15 with that kind of salary. Like that's like on the lower end. But the idea is it's a smaller org. Yeah, right. Obviously, I get it. Why if you make say 6,000, I'm using a random number here, but let's say in Valorant, the whole problem with Valorant at the moment isn't just that it's a good game like everyone's making out. It's that the salaries are mad inflated. So if someone comes to you and says, "I'll pay you 12,000 to play Valorant," would you at least consider it?
Well, I will say I've gotten offers, a couple offers, or 2-3 offers for CS already, and I've turned them down. So I mean, so technically
CS?
for Valorant, for CS, for CS. So Valorant, if someone offered me, no. If it's like 20, I'll consider it.
Okay.
20. That's not bad. Way to shoot your shot. I like that.
Because that's the one angle I can't get as well. Like, listen, I understand if someone, like, you know what, the Dapper one's not a bad example because he hadn't quite made it yet. And maybe it was going to take him another year. And you know what, who knows with the pandemic if he would or what. So if someone came and they actually gave him, like, I'm assuming he's got a pretty good salary now. He's in a half decent team, If I got like a good offer, I maybe understand it if the offer's crazy. The ones I don't get, mate, is the people who are going for like not even that much more money. It's like, that's the weird angle to me. It's like, if you like CS, surely the whole point of being a pro in CS is you get to be a pro playing CS. Not just be a pro. Like if someone offered me fucking 20k a month to play Farmville, I wouldn't do it. Because why the fuck would I care about that game? Like, to me, there has to be some level of self-respect.
There's no stress in Farmville, Duncan. Yeah. You don't have to beat anyone. 20k a month for no stress.
You say that, but then the big city slickers playing Sim City, next thing you know, they're putting pressure on my people, and now we've got all the subsidies are being cancelled because of that bloody politicians, and then town council's not even, no. To be fair, that would be straight fire if actually Farmville was like that. There was all economy built in it, loads of farmers killing themselves in the winter because, the crop's not coming through and whatever. Listen, Moses, I'm making it unique. It's not just,
the potato yield
exactly,
is as big as it should be.
Listen, the Dust Bowl expansion is going to be brutal, I'm telling you. This video was kindly supported by Dean Tanglis, Pronogo, Alexander Rao, Andreas Kroknes, ErikHillestad, Hades, JDubs, the Puyallup Tribe, Tobias Bernasconi, VatriSam, Xinged, James Pederson, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my boy Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Do you want to ask a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers? See who the upcoming guests are going to be? Maybe you'd like to take part in one of those monthly donated discussions with me about esports. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrum today in the Patreon link in the description box below.